Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm W. Wilson Goode, Sr. I want to, first of all, welcome you here on behalf of the Mayor's Commission on African American Males. I am a co-chair with Bilal Kayoun. I just want to thank you all for coming, and we're here to make a set of recommendations. I want to indicate that in 1991, before leaving office, I set up an executive order calling for the creation of an African American Males Commission. It was set up. We did not get very far, and it actually took 2 mayors later before, at the suggestion and recommendation of Bilal Kayoun, that the African American Male Commission was reinstituted. And we're here today because of that. And I want to introduce my co-chair, Bilal Kayoun, who will come and talk a bit about the history that brought us to where we are today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you stop applauding, I'd have to say that can you please give former Mayor Wilson Goode and Mayor Michael Nutter applause for them staying with us. I'm going to try to be as short as possible. As some of my friends says that there's not a microphone that I've never met that I didn't like. But I'm going to be short. And as Mayor Goode had indicated, in 1991, he actually signed an executive order to create this Commission on African American Males. And some of these folks, pictures you see around us, did not agree to continue to do the executive order. And in the year 2010, my organization, the Fathers Day Rally Committee, we pulled together a group of around 110 African-American men from all across, all lifestyles, all across economic, social barriers to look at the problems that are affecting African-American men in the city of Philadelphia and come up with recommendations, and we created a document called the Agenda. Mayor Nutter participated in that meeting and wanted to support the work we did and understood there had been an executive order to create a commission, and Mayor Nutter stepped up and created the commission. So we have now this commission on African American males. And let me just quickly say this. I'm a strong believer in until the city of Philadelphia recognizes and supports and help the African American male, but the African American community in general grow, this city is not going to be a city that could be the first-class city that it says it's going to be. We can no longer be locked out of opportunities and participating in the growth of this city. We also understand, as you see all these men standing with me, that we have a responsibility. We understand that. And we're going to take that responsibility and do everything in our power to make sure we're doing the right things for our families and our communities. But at the same time, the city has to understand that they have to support us as we're moving forward, taking responsibility. The city, and I'm not even talking about necessarily city government, I'm talking about the citizens of this city have to recognize that African American men are being attacked daily, and we need their support to stop those attacks against us so that we can do the right things in our communities, in our families, and then the city will truly grow to be this city of brotherly love. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Eric Grimes, who's going to run us through the recommendations and talk to about the recommendations. And then after Mr. Eric Grimes, our Mayor Nutter will have remarks.
Greetings. Our city is moving forward. This world is moving forward. Our job is to make sure that those young brothers you see in the back of the room are on the pathway forward along with our city. Too often, young men, young boys, black men, black boys, as Bilal said, are disenfranchised and disadvantaged. The fact of the matter is that the de facto position, the default position in this society for black men and boys is disadvantaged unless we decide to do something about it. So again, I'd like to give credit to the brothers of the commission, to the mayor for forming this commission and for the work of this commission to make sure that we're all on the road together and on the path forward to making Philadelphia a world-class city. One of the things that we focused on, the framework that we utilize, is to make sure that black men and boys are considered in 3 core aspects: wellness, achievement, and access, to make sure we create community environments where black men and boys can be safe, can be contributing, can have positive mental and physical health. Areas of achievement and preparation to make sure that with all of the opportunities that are happening in our city, our young brothers and our old brothers are prepared with the academic and career credentials necessary to participate equitably in these opportunities. And then the area of access to make sure that we are on the on-road to these opportunities, that we are not marginalized, that we have the preparation and also the advocacy necessary to participate in the future growth of this city. That's the framework that we've utilized in order to bring forward these recommendations, and our recommendations fit in those core areas. Brother Steve Bassor will go through the recommendations with you all specifically. One of the last things I do want to say, however, is that the issue, if you want to talk about violence, if you want to talk about many things, the issue is often not the issue that you see. In many ways, the issue is constricted opportunity. Where opportunities and attainable visions of a future are constricted, people react with despair, a loss of aspiration, and violence. If you open up equitable access to educational, economic, health, justice, and other opportunities, you have found the key to the other issues that plague black male lives in our city. A mayor can and must be at the forefront of this charge, and we appreciate Mayor Michael Nutter for being at the forefront of this charge. Thank you.
So, in keeping with the recommendations, what were they? Under the wellness recommendation, we asked that there's a promotion of healing and wellness circles in communities that consider the impact of intergenerational trauma and constricted opportunity access on African American males who struggle to live up to traditional manhood standards. Under achievement, the recommendation is proper monitoring and advocacy regarding academic credentialing pursuits to assure equitable access, delivery, opportunity, and decrease the achievement gaps on standardized tests, grade level proficiency in reading and math, and consideration and integration of the National Common Core. Under access, there are 2 recommendations. The first being to develop and nurture partnerships with area colleges and universities. The second is a recommendation to cultivate a black technology community and integrate emerging black male-developed tech into the wider ecosystem. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And let me first say to all of the speakers and the commission members, Mayor Goode, thank you so much for your consistent leadership for decades in this city, and thank you for taking on this additional responsibility. It's not as if you don't have enough to do, but I know where your passion is. Bilal, thank you also, Father's Day Rally Committee, as well as co-chairing with Mayor Goode in this particular effort. And Eric, thank you for laying out the concepts and the recommendations, and I look forward to receiving the full report. I have participated in meetings and discussions around the draft report. I'm going to sign an updated executive order that comes as a result of much of the work from this commission, things that we've learned during this time. Today for me is a quite unique and exciting day, and we're only about midday. The reason that we're running late this morning was my fault. I just completed a very long ribbon cutting or bell ringing ceremony for my political mentor who passed away 30 years ago, 30 years, about 6 months ago, very well known to many here this morning. That was the late Councilman John C. Anderson. He is the reason that I'm in public service, and certainly knew Mayor Goode very, very well, and I know Bilal also. We just opened a building on 13th Street between Spruce and right off of Spruce Street, the John C. Anderson Apartments. It is an LGBT-friendly community, 56 units. It was a very long ceremony, so we are running a little behind. But no better person to name such a building after, and the great leadership that the councilman provided to so many. Of course, I'm also here with the one who, on whose shoulders I certainly stand, and many, many others. Mayor W. Wilson Goode, the first African-American mayor of the city of Philadelphia, did so much and continues to do so much for so many. And so to be able to recognize a person who got me into politics and one who I've followed literally and figuratively for the last 30-plus years. It was in the election of 1983 when the councilman was running for re-election, and the then Democratic candidate who then went on to win the Democratic primary. It was on the night of that election in May of 1983 that I made a decision that I would dedicate my life and the rest of my work life to public service. Ran for office in 1987, 4 years later in the 4th District, lost that race, and then 4 years later in 1991 was elected. The rest, as they say, is history. But I am here because of so many others, and two great black men who provided leadership and mentorship in a variety of ways, and so many, many others. And so I have some remarks that I will make. Some are prepared, some are not. To my staff, don't get too nervous. They get very, very nervous when I go off script. I'm going to conclude those remarks. I'm going to go over and update the executive order. I want to thank this entire commission again for your dedication, your focus, your commitment, and your work. As has been mentioned, on September 15th, 2011, I signed an executive order reestablishing the commission that Mayor Goode had created back in 1991, the Mayor's Commission on African American Males. The commission, as was mentioned, was established back in '91. I was honored then, and I'm honored today, to continue to do this work to comprehensively address the issues and challenges that African American men and boys in particular face in Philadelphia. More than 20 years ago, Mayor Goode recognized the challenges unique to the African American male community. These challenges are even greater in many instances today. We need to focus on providing more opportunities for African American men and other men of color to get an education, to access job training, employment opportunities, and health services that are necessary so that they can take part in this city's bright future. You cannot fully experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness if you do not have a job, if you cannot read or write, if you can't take care of yourself, if you have made a mistake. I'm not sure there's a person in the room who hasn't made some mistake in their life, but others may have made greater ones, have spent time away from home. They have now returned and find it even more challenging to get their lives together. It was said earlier, but I'll say it again. This great city cannot be the great city we want it to be, and we cannot move forward if a significant cohort of the city's population doesn't move along with everyone else. African American men, in many, many instances, and boys, are often, unfortunately, left behind, locked out, locked up, or just forgotten about. We will not forget. Since I signed the executive order in 2011, the city has engaged in a variety of additional projects and initiatives, all designed to improve outcomes for African American men and boys. Cities United, which is an effort that was launched also in 2011 asks mayors all across the United States of America, regardless of party or race, to target the highest risk neighborhoods in their cities and engage African American males in finding solutions to end the violence. Cities United encourages mayors to focus on prevention rather than prosecution, intervention rather than incarceration. I am very proud to be a co-chair of the Cities United national effort, along with my friend and brother, the Mayor of New Orleans, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, as we work with other mayors, 50-plus mayors now across the United States of America, engaged in this work to discuss ways of how we can end violence now in our cities and across America. The City of Philadelphia is also a participant in the Federal Department of Justice program known as the National Forum on Youth Violence Prevention. Last fall, we developed a strategic plan to prevent youth violence, which we presented at a meeting of Forum cities. And we've established a youth violence reduction collaborative among city officials who meet regularly. We had a meeting just this past Friday with the philanthropic and foundation community to discuss how we can align our work with their offices and strategically direct resources with the goal of preventing youth violence. The co-chairs of that effort are Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey, DHS Commissioner Anne-Marie Ambrose, and Federal and Family President Court Judge Kevin Doherty. Right now, we have targeted the 22nd Police District in North Philadelphia, and we are slowly but surely seeing results. The 22nd District in Philadelphia for the last 20 to 30 years has been the most violent district in the police district in the city of Philadelphia consistently, year after year after year after year. We are seeing results now in the 22nd because of these targeted, intense efforts. As you can see, the City of Philadelphia is focused on, committed to, and will continue its effort to improve the lives of Philadelphia's African American men and boys. But we can always do more. And I look forward to reading the Commission's full report now that it has been developed and working with the Commission members as we continue on our action items associated with their recommendations. Let me also highlight before I sign this executive order, of course, I get to do a lot of this kind of work in front of or behind the podium and in front of you. And Mayor Goode certainly knows this and many others. But there are always those who do the real work, the behind-the-scenes work, and they need to be recognized. And so, one, to all the staff in the Mayor's office who help and support the work that we do. But in particular, let me highlight and mention Erica Atwood, who is a tremendous help to us in this work. We're sitting next to Tumar Alexander. I want to thank Tumar for his work as well. And the true leader in public safety, and one who, prior to taking the position here in the city government, dedicated 3 decades of his life to defending those who needed defense, speaking out for those who had no voice, working to make sure that folks were not ground up and left to the side in the system. And that would be our Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and my Chief of Staff, Everett Gillison. At this time, I'm going to sign an updated version of the executive order that I signed in 2011, reestablishing the Mayor's Commission on African American Males. This new executive order more clearly defines the roles and responsibilities of the Commission, allowing this Commission to more effectively execute their duties and responsibilities. A couple last comments. First and foremost, with the receipt of this report, I now plan to have a full presentation by members of the Commission to our entire executive team in the city government. I want to make sure and reinforce that everyone understands this is not just my thing. This is not just Everett's thing. It's not just Erica's thing or Tumar's thing or a couple folks' thing. This is the government's thing, and this is what the government will do during my time. Everyone has a role and responsibility to play. Every city agency, every department can do something to help ensure that this is a safer city, a smarter city, a more sustainable city, and a city that recognizes the great challenges that African American men and boys and other men of color experience in this city and all across the United States of America. If we are truly going to live up to our Declaration and our Constitution, to what America represents, then African American men must be highlighted when they do well, must be helped when they need it, when they face great challenge. And that even an event like today, I would certainly hope, and the folks who are here, I appreciate all that you write and other decisions get made in other places. But this is a room full of black men trying to do the right thing. And I would just hope and pray, at least this day, that their efforts would not be on B-17. It should be A1. There should be a picture. There should be a story written that a group of black men came together and said, enough is enough. We have our ideas. We want to move forward. We have things that we want to do. And that people should not have things in their mind that all of a sudden they are fearful about seeing a group of guys, this group of guys or some other group of guys walking down the street, trying to do right, trying to do well, taking care of their families, taking care of their children, taking care of their business. That's this day, and every day going forward. Let us try to do right by people in this city. As I said earlier, I haven't met a person yet who hasn't made some mistake, who hasn't needed some help. The day I do, I know that day I will not be on this earth. I will be, hopefully, in heaven. But until that time, all of us will continue to face challenges, and all of us will have to stand up and do what we can while we're here and do right by other people. I'm going to sign this order, and then we'll have some more conversation. This is Executive Order number 13-11, the Mayor's Commission on African American Males. The Mayor's Commission on African Males is hereby established. And it is reestablished. Thank you. I'm going to open things up to the news media, but there are a group of young people who are here, and I want to thank them for, you know, as they say, some days it is absolutely true that you should never let your schooling interfere with your education. There are things that you will learn in books, there were things that you will learn in class, and then every now and then there are just things that you have to experience. This should be a part of your civics education. You are here in the People's Hall, City Hall. This is the mayor's reception room. You have witnessed a little small part of history, and I am hopeful that it will have the proper impression on you. But you are in school, you are doing the right thing, and we applaud your commitment to yourselves, that you cared enough to be here today and also support your principal. With that, if any members of the news media have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Mayor, you described some of your policies that concern this issue throughout your term. Can you describe how you feel the African-American male community has fared under your time in office from where they were now?
Well, I tend not to try to give myself grades. You know, if I did that when I was in school, I guess I'd have had a lot better marks than what the record might indicate. I think that when you look at public safety issues, certainly we have had some challenges over the years, but I would also venture to say that in the last 3, 4, 5 years, there are significantly more people alive today than may have been years gone by. Last year, we had the lowest number of homicides in the city of Philadelphia since 1967. 75% of the homicide deaths in the city are black men. 85% of the homicides are African Americans. That's, of course, men and women. And so, from a public safety standpoint, we've made progress, but one shooting or one death is too many, of any person, of any color in this city. When Mayor Goode, shortly before he came into office, there was a significant effort during the administration previous to his to help ensure that minority-owned businesses, female-owned businesses, disabled businesses might have more business opportunity. Mayor Goode took on that great challenge. We've kept a focus in that particular area. You know that we have an annual disparity study now that indicates that we should be setting goals of 25% of our business with those business owners. Last year, the goal was 25%. We hit 28%. But unfortunately, there are still many challenges. Unemployment, notwithstanding whatever you might read in a paper or hear on TV or on the radio or on the internet, while it's slowly coming down nationally, we know that it's still much too high in the African American community, 20, 30, sometimes 40% in some neighborhoods. High school graduation rates for African American males and Hispanic males are the lowest of any cohort in the city of Philadelphia, but we've made progress. And so I think, you know, what I would say is we've made steady progress over the past few years. We have a long way to go still, and much more work to do. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mayor. I just want to ask, when will we see these policies implemented, and is there a financial component that's going to help bolster these particular recommendations by this commission?
Well, first is literally getting the full report, reading through it, and also a discussion with the executive team on implementation. Some may require funding, some may just be policy changes. And so I think in the course of this year, you'll start to see some of the recommendations from the report as we go through not just the budget process, but how we allocate resources and use the current resources that we have. We'll figure out, you know, what the true quote-unquote financial costs may be. But in many instances, it could just be redistributing dollars or changing emphasis and focus for dollars that we're already spending. But I could not, I want to be very clear, I could not give you at the moment on a report that I literally have not read, I couldn't give you a fixed financial cost. But I would only suggest that the cost of not implementing many of the recommendations is more costly than implementing them. Yes. It'll be made available to the public, yes. Yes.
Ground laws are becoming the buzzword now, and we're seeing the African American males in particular being targeted by these laws and even being supported by courts. In your conversations with other mayors around the country, are you hearing any kind of a buzz to get some of these laws challenged or repealed from your other mayors around the country, and how we can kind of change some of this from a public and private standpoint?
You know, I'm not an expert on the standing ground laws or how many states have them. Obviously, these are usually implemented by states, generally not by cities. We know in many instances the challenges that mayors face in states. We may be, in many instances, the largest jurisdiction within the state, but we're not the state. I am very concerned about these kinds of laws, and even in Pennsylvania, we saw an expansion of this particular doctrine now going beyond the home into, you know, driveway, your front lawn, out by your car, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, quite honestly, again, not an expert in this area, I don't know whether it's a conscious decision by some in those states to, quote unquote, target African American males. On the other hand, we know of course, some very high profile cases where African American males have been the victim of shootings, and in many instances completely inexplicable. So It is a topic of conversation for some of the mayors, but I would suggest that in many instances, we're really going to have to talk to general assemblies or state legislators and governors. Yes, ma'am.
Safety and opportunity and stuff is surrounded that talked about in the perspective of black males. Is there any effort on the city's part or anything that you're thinking about doing to address some of the issues that African American girls are dealing with? Because if you get things together for the guys and the girls are still messed up, how forward are we really going to be able to move?
Well, I guess notwithstanding the name of the commission and its obvious significant focus, I think that in many, many ways, taking on some of the issues that African American men and boys face, you will in fact capture many of the same challenges that African American women face. So it is not meant to be exclusive, but it is certainly meant to have a particular focus while at the same time seeking to be as inclusive as possible. I want everyone to be safe in this city, but I also have to deal with a few startling, frightening facts. And so as I mentioned earlier, when 75% of the city's homicide victims are black men, I think that's something that we have to come to grips with. When nearly 80% of the perpetrators of those crimes that we arrest are black men, those are great and significant challenges for us. Those are the sons of mothers. Those are the brothers of sisters. It's not meant to be exclusive. And I think that this very talented group can actually do more than one thing at a time, and certainly our government can as well. Last question. Yes.
It seems to me that for all the problems that we know that exist in the city, I'm curious, how long are we going to ignore the inevitable for what we all know, and it's the deplorable education system in our city? How long are we going to stay captive by the unions and the inability for us to teach our kids, which is at the foundation of 99% of the problems in our city?
Well, as deeply as I appreciate the question, I am sure you did not mean to use the word ignore the issue of education in questioning me. No one in elective office today has been more focused on the issue of education than me. And so I would not suggest that the only issue or the only challenge we have is whether or not we have a unionized workforce teaching our children, whether the children are being taught by a union teacher or a non-union teacher. The issue, as I see it, is a lack of a serious, sustainable, full and fair funding of education in this city and the other 499 school districts across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As I said last Tuesday, you can't be a first-class scholar on second-class education funding. One government has continued to cut funding. The other government, this one, has continued to increase funding over the past few years. We've been staunch supporters of Dr. Haidt and his program, and certainly working with the SRC. And so what I want to suggest back is that all of us need to either get one of those little booklets of tickets to either get on the Amtrak to Harrisburg or on the Turnpike. I'm not going to suggest my friend, as he did a couple years ago, he's moved on from those days. We will not be walking to Harrisburg. We'll find a vehicle, a bus, or something. I saw what that did to him. I am not doing that. But what we need is a student-weighted funding formula to distribute funds for education in this Commonwealth. Pennsylvania is one of only 3 states in the United States of America that does not use such a formula. And I am not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that other districts should have less in order for Philadelphia to have more. But if you look at what goes on in this district, which spends about maybe $13,000 to $14,000 to educate a child, and most of the districts nearby in the suburbs around us are in excess of 20. I'm not saying money is the entire solution, but if you want more counselors in schools, if you want a nurse in school, if you want art, if you want music, if you want after-school programs and sports that are not on the chopping block each and every day, then you will pay for it. You cannot educate our kids on the cheap. They need our help and support, and those young people out there, this is about their future. Many of us have already had a good portion of our lives and our futures. We do this work for them, and I think that this needs to be the civil rights issue of the 21st century, but also needs to be the 2014 issue that all of us dedicate ourselves to. We will have less crime in this city when more young people are educated. We will have more jobs, we'll have less poverty, we will have a better city when they're all educated and can go out here and do whatever it is that they want to do with themselves. They will not be out here robbing, stealing, stabbing, shooting, and engaged in all this other kind of nonsense, because working folks, people who can take care of themselves, don't have time for that kind of nonsense, and they're not thinking about that kind of nonsense in the first place. So, all right. Well, I can feel I'm getting ready to get into something. So, I thank you all for being here. My staff has given me the sign. They know that I'm getting ready to go to the next level. I want to thank the commission. Please give them a big, big round of applause and thank them for their work. And you'll be hearing from us. We'll get this report out, and then we'll do some periodic public report outs of some of the work and some of the results. Thank you again very, very much. Bye-bye.